All right, we're officially 2 minutes after. Make sure you're in the right place. This is Lumifi MDR talking about how we use tools to put all the events and things that we see together for you. We brought two of our favorite vendors, Vectra and Exabeam, to talk about collection, detection, and all kinds of interesting things. My name is Grant Leonard. I'm the field CISO for Lumifi. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I've built security operations centers around the world. I've installed SIMs in crazy places and done all kinds of things, and certainly happy to share some of those stories. But today I brought both Steve Kansa from Exabeam and Shan from Vectra, and I'd like to let them introduce themselves. Steve?
Sure. I'm Steve Kanza. I'm a VP of product at Exabeam. I lead several of the product management teams for Exabeam, focused both on our on-prem SIM solutions as well as our new scale SIM solution. So happy to be joining Shan and Grant and looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Steve. Shan? You're on mute, sir. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Grant, and hello, everyone, and great to be here with everyone. My name's Shan. I lead the field technical sales team here at Vectra for North America West. Long-standing history in cybersecurity, so I'm really excited to be participating on this webinar today.
Excellent. All right. So we are going a bit in case we lost everybody. Previously, I was talking about the SOC Triad, and these are just ways for us to think about log acquisition or information acquisition and giving visibility. We'll be talking obviously with SIM and NDR solutions today, but what's really interesting is that all aspects of that triad touch on all concepts of the MDR, right? So an EDR is going to collect locally processes or applications interacting or launching. An NDR, as we're going to see, is going to collection of packet level peer-to-peer conversations, entity behaviors. And a SIM, as Steve's going to talk to us about, is going to be a collection of logs, transactions, approvals, denials, moves, add, change, and account behaviors, right? When we put all of these things together, we get some kind of a response or an output. So on the screen, you'll be seeing how Lumifi might handle some aspects of these different pieces of information. But Steve's going to dive into what a SIM does in terms of a detection or a delivery. And Shan's going to spend some time talking about what alarms mean or what notifications and dashboards look like. And we'll be touching into sort of all of these interesting aspects. So Shan, since I'm obviously having a little bit of trouble, let me launch this over to you, sir, and let you start in with the Vectra portion.
Great, thank you, Grant. All right, so I'm just going to spend a quick few minutes talking about who Vectra is, why we do what we do, how do we do it, and then why does it matter and what is the impact on the SOC Triad. As Grant noted, is that we are the signal provider. Our mission for the past over 14 years is how do we apply AI in the most effective manner of helping to provide the most precise signals possible. One of the things our great friends here at Exabeam and Lumifi does is be able to take large volumes of data and be able to filter, distill, recognize what's actionable, and then subsequently take action on those events as quickly as possible. Our philosophy is how do we help enable those organizations, such as Lumifi, their SOC analysts, organizations like Exabeam, is so that they don't have to worry about the scale of figuring out what's noise versus signals. So our intent was always to how do we apply AI in a meaningful manner to, again, provide the most possible and most precise signals possible. We've done this again over the last 14 years, developed over 180 distinct AI models that are focused on identifying threat behaviors. It's a little bit of a different paradigm, but when you think about it more broadly, is using AI and training AI models and algorithms to detect specific cyber threats. You have a more impactful and more scalable way of doing this in a very reasonable amount of time. We've got over 35 public patents that you can review. We have organizations around the world. We've been at this for a while, and I think the distinction here is that when we talk about how we apply AI, which we'll get into very quickly here, is that it's distinctly different from maybe some of the contemporary or modern interpretations. This, unfortunately, is not a fast event in terms of training AI. It takes a lot of development. It takes a lot of success and failures and constant refinement. And again, we've been at this probably the longest in the industry above all other solutions and vendors. We're very proud of what we have. Who is our platform and solution designed for? It's for the incident responders, the first responders, those who are in the heat of the battle and need to have the precise signals and information in order for them to take the appropriate actions, to make that determined very quickly. So we are squarely part of the tools that's used by people doing battle. It's not about the pre, it's not about the post. Those things are important and relevant. But right now, our platform is focused on individuals who perform and are in the heat of the battle. And there's two specific elements here. Is the detection aspect and then the response aspect, right? We already talked about, and I already talked about briefly about how we apply AI to provide the most precise detection signals possible. But then that can also tie into automated responses, right? How do we go and say, I'm 100% confident from the signal I'm receiving. Now I have clarity into what I need to do in order to mitigate or stop the threat. And these are the elements that we focus on within our platform and tool. What is our view of what we're trying to protect? Vectra's view is that all future organizations are going to be hybrid. And if companies and their domains and states that they're needing to protect and have visibility to is hybrid, it means that the attack methodologies and the attacker's profile is also hybrid in nature. This is one of the reasons why we overly emphasize the importance of having visibility into all of your states and all the domains. Whether you're just dancing in the cloud a little bit, maybe using very few resources, and you still have a traditional on-prem or self-hosted environment, that's fine. Or if you have 90% of your infrastructure lifted and shifted into cloud, but you still have legacy on-prem, we've seen that this actually benefits the attackers because this gives them multiple zones or multiple rooms to attack in. And if you don't have a way to identify the pivot from environment to environment, you're missing out. You're missing out on the ability to go and unify that. And this is where Vectra really prevails, is that our early understanding and our early perception that all organizations will be hybrid and will continue to be, meaning that the attack and the risk surface will also be hybrid in nature. It means the solution that's implemented or deployed must be hybrid as well and has ability to identify and stitch together as threats move from environment to environment. Even today, we're seeing the progression and application of AI like Copilot and Enterprise. What we're finding is that greatly accelerates the threat actors' capabilities to be able to go and refine, to do lateral movements, to perform reconnaissance. Copilot, though it's not intended for a purpose, greatly accelerates that attack prevention. So from speed of identification to speed of response has been more important than ever. The domains that we talked about in the previous slide, the hybrid nature, how does Vectra see that? It includes the elements of network, physical, virtual, so on. We talk about identity, and there's a lot of emphasis on the identity because it is probably the most prevalent attack surface today because it greatly simplifies the threat surface. Being identity-based, it gives you ability to circumvent and bypass other control measures. Public cloud, SaaS, infrastructure, business applications like Office 365, again, those are all what we see as part of the hybrid environment. The one element that we do not touch upon is really endpoint. There's a multitude of different solutions in this place that are top-ranked vendors. The approach we took was a point of integration and allow organizations to leverage their existing infrastructure, their existing investments, versus having to deploy yet another agent. We understand there's agent fatigue, so our goal was to simply utilize what's best of breed and integrate with those. But the other domains are our wheelhouse. We see all of those elements as being important. When we looked at and saying, hey, applying AI for threat detection, how else can we get value? And again, this came to my earlier statement at the beginning is, how do we help those folks in the heat of the battle get to the decision point of response more rapidly. Filter out the noise, help them prioritize. And this is where we take AI and utilize AI in those capabilities. So just like we've taken AI and leveraged it for threat detection, well, how about these models? How can we train models to do prioritizations, to identify and stitch together meaningful signals so you have attack progression that's going to help elevate the risk and the urgency behind it. When we talk about threat detection and applying AI, the foundation of what we do is really based on around the MITRE framework. This public framework has done a tremendous job of laying out probably the most scalable and distinct ways of attributing attacks because it's based on TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. What this means is that we're looking at the general underlying behavior that are symbolic and representative of specific attacks versus individual ransomware or individual campaigns, right? We're no longer looking for the weapon. We're looking at the behavior of the individual that's wielding the weapon. And the analogy I always use is, if you're in some place that's, you feel, the mall or whatever, just because someone's got a pocket knife doesn't mean that they are a suspect, that there's a dangerous intent. Now, a person with a pocket knife and they take that out and they're waving around and they're making threatening acts and they're physically maybe attacking individuals, that behavior is representative of bad situation, right? Not the existence of a weapon. This is the approach that we take to training our models, is saying, how do we go and specifically train models to understand the nuance and distinct behaviors? The analogy I use is, if you think about medical care industry, there's all these individuals are classified as doctors. You would greet all these individuals as Dr. Joe, Dr. Sam. Oh, sorry, if you go back. But they have distinct traits, right? So they went to general medical school, but then they specialize. This is where we optimize our AI models. And we use models, again, there's a reason why we have so many different distinct models and algorithms, is that they're all purpose-built, they're all purpose-trained to specialize in a particular field of expertise, just like doctors are. So what does this mean in the Vectra world? The MITRE framework. It's a perfect framework that aligns with our methodology of saying, how do I not get caught up about the weapon, but make the distinction of based on the behaviors. It's a little bit of an eye chart, but on that left-hand side, when you look at the MITRE framework, you have distinct phases of the kill chain. You have distinct categories or TTPs within that category. Each of these categories represent to us a potential to apply a distinct algorithm or multiple algorithms that will be trained on specific behaviors that align with that TTP. This is, again, why we have so many. The reason is because we can't create a handful. If you are working with a vendor that says, hey, we can cover all these advanced scenarios for hybrid environments, and we got 5 models, 6 algorithms, 10 algorithms, 20 algorithms, it's insufficient. There's still general purpose. What that means is large volume of noise, not the clarity of signals that's required. This is, again, why we have so many models. This is what we've been working at for over the last 14 years. And we're constantly refining, constantly training, constantly tuning, and then also identifying new TTPs as they appear. So this is an ever-evolving model, but again, purpose-built, specifically trained specialists that are experts in their field of study. And for us, that is the MITRE framework. We're also utilizing AI, as I mentioned earlier, is the signals that we provide. How do we further refine that down, right? So we have AI that's purpose-built for identifying threats, but then we also leverage AI to refine and filter down those threats, make the connections, understand the velocity, understand urgency, understand the priority of the entities involved in the signal, and then provide an overall model of high priority events so that the incident responders can take control as quickly as possible to minimize or remove that threat altogether. Grant, I'll stop here and hand
Thank
it back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Shan. This is a kind of a good break here so we can talk about how Lumifi handles this. That seems like a daunting task to be able to manage something like that. Look to which model to tune or which alert to fig or which one to kind of focus on. And this is what Lumify is going to do for you, right? We're going to spend our time alongside you. We don't want to take away the management. We want you to own it, but we want to be the team that's doing it 24/7, 365 for you, right? So we actually prefer that you spend your time managing us. We'll handle the actual application itself. We'll work alongside and in front of you. Managing and monitoring do not have to conflict with one another, and that's so important, right? So as you think about this and you think about like what it looks like to kind of care and feed from a tool like that, bear that in mind here as I'm going to introduce Steve and Exabeam and let them talk about the SIM approach to a very similar problem. Steve?
Yeah, and it is remarkable, looking at Stan's presentation, there's, obviously Vectra is focused on that network aspect of it. And we apply a lot of the same things from a SIM perspective. So let me just start by introducing Exabeam. If you haven't been following us closely, a lot has changed with Exabeam in the past year, coming up on almost 1 year of Exabeam and Logarithm merging together. And as we've merged together, we've created a powerhouse in the SIM space. We've brought together a combined team that has over 30 years of experience with security operations and addressing challenges in SIM, SOAR, UEBA, insider threat, and compliance. And these are kind of the core challenges that security operations teams really need help with. We have over 14 years of combined industry analyst recognition, 14 years combined in the Gartner MQ leader position, and we're heavily invested in innovation. We have over 75 patents in the security operations space. A lot of that is in ML and AI, and I'll touch on those in a little bit more detail in a second. We're a global company, over 3,000 customers in every continent except Antarctica. So global reach, large customer base that we're serving, and the customer base spans from small organizations up to some of the largest organizations in the world. You can advance to the next slide. So I want to touch a little bit on how Exabeam can help you succeed where other SIM tools can fail you. And our platform delivers faster and more precise, more repeatable outcomes to help protect you against threats that other tools can miss. Over the course of time, we've surveyed thousands of security leaders, and there are some really consistent challenges that we hear: slow investigations, limited visibility and incident response knowledge, automation across the threat investigation and response workflow. And we've built our platform to specifically help address those challenges. In the detection area, we are really the leaders in detection. We spot a number of threats that other tools just can't find. I touched on this already, and I'll delve into this a little bit more, but we are leaders and pioneers in the use of ML and AI for improving detection outcomes. We also have the most robust anomaly detection engine for UEBA, really focused on user, device, entity type behavior to help spot insider threats, which is actually the most common attack vector that organizations are being attacked with today. We have a unique approach to investigations and a holistic approach to prioritization across networks, endpoints, and other security data sources. We allow analysts to focus on what matters and tune out the noise that can drown other security teams. And we're focused on guiding organizations to real improvements in security outcomes. I want to spend some time talking about how we leverage AI. And we've been a leader in this space for many, many years. And we continue to invest and innovate heavily across the entire security operations workflow using AI. As I said, we pioneered anomaly detection with UEBA for SIMs over 10 years ago. In machine learning based AI is really the only viable method to detect insider threats and compromised credentials when there is no vulnerability, no malware, no exploit, or other type of threat indicators showing up. In this type of AI is critical to be able to differentiate typical user behavior from the behavior that is actually threatening. A lot of tools attempt to do this and can just spot anomalous behavior, but it isn't necessarily threatening behavior, and that can overwhelm you with false positives that make it difficult for you to actually detect the true threats in your organization. We've taken this expertise and we are the first to extend it to other areas of investigation and response, such as alert triage and data onboarding, which are typically two areas that our teams spend a lot of time, probably too much time on in the SIM space. We've also added the power of generative AI in new and thoughtful ways. And our generative AI isn't a separate application. It isn't something separate you have to purchase. It's directly embedded in the analyst workflows. A great example of this is how we provide AI natural language search to help make analysts that are new to the platform or more junior analysts more productive. Another example of this could be considered agentic AI, which is a hot new term. And that's how we automatically leverage Gen AI in a workflow to provide guidance, automatically generated explanations of threats and recommended remediations to help reduce analysts' learning curve and provide them a more guided experience. One of the key ways that we're different from many security vendors is we have a specific security-focused data model that's built not just generally to store security data, but it's built with security detection use cases in mind. From the second data hits our platform, we're processing it, we're enriching that data with security context for better security outcomes. Because our detections are more accurate, it flows through across the board, giving us more accurate detections, better search experiences, dashboards that are optimized for immediate consumption without work needing to be done to massage that data across all the different security sources. Our security context is really embedded into everything that we consume in our platform, and that gives us a basis to stitch together signals from your various tools, whether that's endpoint, network, other security, scanning tools, etc., and give you a uniformed view of what is going on from your current security context. We also bring together your organizational structure context so that we can customize our AI's understanding of your specific organization. So we understand what normal user behavior looks like down to an individual user, a department level, across your entire organization. In this type of contextual understanding is something that really needs to be done in order for you to reduce the noise and find the true threats. We have over 500 different models and permutations, so we aren't just surfacing general anomalies, we're understanding in detail what normal behavior looks like. So I want to touch a little bit on how we do this and how we do it's a little bit different than others. So behind the scenes, our insider threat detection with ML-based AI, we're taking a variety of different data sources, log data, threat intel, again, the organizational context, and our platform efficiently parses and normalizes that data at petabyte scale for individual customers, and obviously many, many petabytes data across our entire platform. And we're able to do that in real time. We use ML scoring and we create what is called a smart timeline from this data. And these timelines can track that insider behavior in the threatening timeline progression that can be an insider threat. These timelines are managed and organized and surfaced to analysts into a threat to your organization, making it easier for the analysts to understand and act on that organization. And this process is crucial for real-time threat detection in enabling us to stay ahead of potential threats and reduce alert fatigue. I touched on Gen AI. I'll talk a little bit on how our Gen AI is unique. In one of those aspects is that contextual information of threats that we have from that timeline. So all of that data is directly available for Gen AI to leverage. And we use that Gen AI to kind of instantly up-level analysts to make analysts that are more junior have a much broader understanding, more like a tier 3 analyst. So we feed all the data of our timelines back into Gen AI so it has a full contextual understanding of the threat. We also infuse that Gen AI with the knowledge of our security research team. So the Gen AI can think and act like a security veteran with over 10 years experience, understanding things like the MITRE framework and how threats can progress through an attack vector. If you're a fan of the Matrix like me, I like to think of this as the scene in the Matrix where Neo gets downloaded various types of defense techniques and instantly understands things like Kung Fu and karate. That is what we're doing with a combination of understanding the threat and embedding that security knowledge so that we can provide high fidelity recommendations, not just generic bouncing logs against a Gen AI model and trying to translate that back. So I want to talk a little bit on one aspect of Exabeam that we are unique. We like to say we want to meet you where you're at. And our platform is designed to be adopted in a modular way. If you have a SIM, but you're not yet ready to replace it, we can provide a path to modernizing it with analytics and the insider threat detection that I mentioned we pioneered in the Gen AI capabilities we pioneered. So some customers that are focused on insider threats and aren't getting the value they need from their current SIM can augment that SIM with our technology. If you want to fully replace your SIM or you're new to the market and going from something like an XDR capability that lacks the true correlation capabilities of a SIM in moving into a more robust solution, we can completely replace that platform with our SIM technology and the insider threat detection that we bring with the augmentation. So I want to wrap just with some examples of why customers choose us. We have a platform that can operate at any scale, and it operates extremely efficiently at those scales. So things like search, easy, fast, performant, regardless of your scale. We detect insider threats that other tools just can't. And this is why large organizations such as banks, car manufacturers, airlines use our technology to protect their customers. And we provide an ease of use and automation that's truly unparalleled in the industry. Grant, back over to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Wow, that's an amazing amount of information. I've been extremely fortunate to be able to use and implement both of these tools. Some cases, I've helped a client grow over the course of 7 years with one of these platforms. And every time I hear other people talk about it, I kind of get a different viewpoint on what it looks like from an outsider or a new person to begin considering or using one of these platforms. I'm also old enough to really have known the old security onion that we first started with back when we were really trying to get our heads around security in the age of the internet. And the reality is those same concepts still apply. We may not have this ugly graphic that we all learned when we were first getting the CISSP, but it's still important, right? I still have to be able to be aware of what's going on the endpoint at a transactional level. I have to be aware of what's going on my network, whether it's a legacy on-prem network or a hybrid network that extends into the cloud or cloud only. I still have to collect all the logs and the transactions that are occurring But then I have to start making sense of these puzzle pieces. Obviously, we're not going to forget the quiet fourth leg of that triad, mail security. And I need to put all of this together and make sense of it. And what happens when I start adding in what we like to call security adjacent things, where I'm starting to monitor for credit cards that are out, or brand awareness on the internet, or I'm looking at how my data flows into all of these places, or how quickly, right? You know, we used to use the old vulnerability management scan and patch, but now things change faster, right? My cloud security posture might change instantly with small changes, and I need to know what all those things kind of look like and how to put them together. So in a traditional SOC or in a traditional alert-driven scenario, I have an alert, I work an alert. Lumifi looks at this a little bit differently. Our intellectual property Shield Vision does use AI as well. And what we're trying to do here is take any kind of an alarm or an awareness from one of these amazing NDR platforms like Vectra, or this great UAV platform like Exabeam, and start making sense of this, right? I want to accept the fact that the EDR said there is an alert. And I'm going to go and correlate or corroborate that in the other platform. Um, our analysts start at that contextualized alert level, right? So a Shield Vision is going to go say, I'm very alert aware, I have learned something, and then I want to go validate said something in another platform or extend that knowledge out. So my sort of favorite boring example here, you have an individual in your organization who has clicked on a malicious link. It does happen, we all know it, and they've compromised their account and maybe their machine. So obviously I can immediately jump in and isolate that machine, but then I've got to look to the NDR. What kind of lateral movements, what things are happening both after I've corrected it, restored the machine, and during that attack? I've got to go into my SIM and look at Exabeam and say, hey, were they trying to access any files? What other systems allowed them in post that? And what I hope to return to the client is a very boring document that says, we saw it, we fixed it, and here's how we checked to make sure other things weren't happening, right? So we look to you guys as clients to help us do this for you, but we all know that everybody has their favorites. So here in these scenarios, we want you to be customer A and bring your own EDR. But we're going to be able to, with Shield Vision, look across all of these platforms and then either begin immediate triage via some SOAR response, hopefully with Vectra Exabeam, or just with the EDR or talking to you, Mr. Client. A good case study or way to look at this is from again this end user perspective. Everybody knows the workforce. You may right now be sitting in a coffee shop looking at this, right? We all know that you're going to be somewhere that is not the traditional brick and mortar office. Even though you're there, even though you're having to return from homework, right? You're going to be out and about and doing things. And so as we saw, Exabeam has a very contextual aware scenario. Vectra does the same thing. We all look to places and pieces of information. Now we happen to be using Graph API here because it's certainly everybody's IDM, but it could also be Okta or wherever. And the point is that as we learn something from any specific point, both Lumifi and these other platforms are going to go there to provide us additional information. And one of the things Lumifi is going to do is look at places that I don't actually normally co-manage, right? So I'm never going to manage your IDM. That's not our goal. But I can go and access those and be very aware of what's happening. So I don't have to come to you at 2 a.m. and toss something over the fence and say, hey, is this person actually traveling? I can see from history that this is normal for them, even though Microsoft has said, you've logged in from somewhere that's outside the United States. I can already know that this is allowed per your policies, right? Or Exabeam might already know, or Vectra might have said, hey, this happens. This isn't actually outside the country. It's a VPN endpoint. So this provides what we like to call that last mile investigation, right? It's really hard for any organization to staff 24/7, 365 and actually provide real full-time results. So we're going to leverage some of the best in breed technologies, two of which we got to see here, amazing. And then what we're going to try to do is provide you that outcome that you're looking for. We recognize that it's your security, it's your program, it's your data. So we just want to work alongside you, right? We're nothing more than stewards of both your platform and the output. And just as you saw both Vectra and Exabeam spending all this time on research, improvement, constantly getting better, constantly developing, so is Lumifi. right? We're spending a lot of time on our content where we're able to do things like surface things that matter, right? Not independent of Vectra and Exabeam, but alongside those tools. We're also listening to you and understanding what's going on. We're constantly threat hunting in these platforms, right? Anything I learned in any one platform gets applied to all platforms. And then the crux of all of this is just building this relationship, right? So even though an output today might be an alert or a dashboard or some kind of report, it can also be a meeting, which is what we want to do. We want to meet with you on a monthly basis or more frequently. We want you guys to tell us, hey, this is where we're steering the ship, and we will steer the ship that way. You know, I like to say I never really know about the water cooler conversation going on in the client environment. Therefore, we spend a lot of time with clients understanding that so that we can make the EDR work the way you want, reduce the false positives. We can bend the platform to your environment, because it is a daunting task to tackle a Vectra and an Exabeam and have, you know, these pockets of knowledge where, you know, you end up with one person who might grow in their role or might change roles, and you have to train over and over again. So we'll kind of be that sort of MDR provider and personal extension of your team for you. So hopefully we have some people out there who've been asking questions. So let me jump back to our moderator here on our side. Do we have any questions in the field or things that we can kind of jump to or speak to? Nope. All right. Well, you are always free to post questions. Here's our email address here. Obviously, phone numbers. We'll quickly take you through demos of any of these platforms or get the vendors on and let you deep dive them and see what they look like firsthand. We're happy to show you ours internally so you guys can kind of see what's going on. And we certainly appreciate everybody joining and stopping by and listening to us today. Hopefully everybody has a great rest of the afternoon. Bye.